Good evening, everybody.
Hi, very good evening.
Hi, Gargi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. Hi, Dash.
Dash, your voice is not audible.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Hi, Sushila.
Hi, Sushila.
Hi.
Early birds.
Yeah, how many? 6. And I think we have a guest also, na? Right?
Yes, program is in 2 minutes. He says enjoy.
We have somebody from Rotary Prime, right?
Let's see it here. Karthik.
Yeah, Karthik. Hi, Suman.
Hi.
Hi, Suman.
Enjoy. Prof Raghunath, good evening. Can you
Good
hear us, see
evening.
us?
Good evening.
Ah, there
Good evening.
There you go. There you go. My God, when you're surrounded by this kind of number of books, you scare us.
It's like a museum, right?
That's
Museum.
the whole purpose.
Museum.
Probably he will say, okay, look, this is the future of education.
Future of education, they'll read the background with one USB.
Oh.
Hi, Rags. Rags, good evening.
Good evening, good evening.
Good evening, all.
Hi, Rags.
Hey,
How are you?
good. All good.
Great to have you in our midst.
Yeah. What? Good evening, Professor.
Good evening. Hi, Narayan.
Hi, good evening, everyone. An old apartment. One of the first big problems, not a very big house. I think they were there for years. Then, that was that.
Hello.
Hi, Al.
Thank you, Gargi, for good evening.
Yeah,
Good evening, Al.
for sending the coordinates.
I finally broke it. Good to see you all.
Yeah, finally nobody could stop you from joining the meeting, right?
Hi. How are you guys? Glad to see you're all looking younger.
Hello, good evening to all.
Good to see you, Al. We're not able to see you.
I know, what am I to do? Your problem, not mine.
You have to switch on the camera.
Where the bloody hell is the camera now?
Call the photographer.
There's a video symbol there, camera symbol. You have to click on that.
I'll type anywhere on the screen and you'll see a lot of icons at the bottom. I'll tech support reporting.
I can see Dash.
Yeah, hi. We can see you.
Hi, Vijay. Vijay is here.
Hello.
Gargi Vijay is here. He's joined us.
Yeah.
Vijay Kumar Kobatia.
Okay. 1 minute. There are 2-3 visitors, you see. I don't really know all of them.
Vijay is a literacy director.
Is yeah. Oh, he is.
Yes.
Yes.
I had my cap on, that's why.
Yeah.
Hi,
And
boss.
there is Shushila and Radha BG. Any idea? I mean, do you know?
Yeah, Manjunath is raising his hand.
Yeah. So I am the guest. I got this invitation in the district club service group.
Okay.
I'm from
Nice.
Bangalore, Elite.
Yeah.
Thank you, Radha. Appreciate you joining us.
Hi, Sushila.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm from
Hi.
Rotary Bangalore Prime. Vijay Kumar's.
Okay. Yeah, quite a few guests are there. Good to see you all. But I don't really know everyone. So we have to, if I miss out while welcoming, please pardon me.
Yeah, my sister's here wanting to know if it's okay for her to be here. And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Sunita, is it?
Of
Yeah.
course.
Sujila, your sister is Sunita?
Yes, it is.
Hi.
Oh.
Yes.
I was
Okay.
wondering how come two Ramans? Both with S.
Practically
With you.
twins.
We were doing the research of how come 2 Venkatraman are there. Good.
Venkat Raman.
Yes.
Okay,
I-
Gargi, I think we are ready.
Yeah,
to
I
go.
think it's 7:31 actually. We should start, right?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, Divi.
Hi, Gargi. Hi, everyone.
Right. It's
Hey,
7:31
Divi.
now, so let us start the meeting. And I call the 12th meeting of the Rotary year 23-24 of RCBC to order. Now we will observe 1 minute silence for world peace. Thank you. Well, I'll request Club Secretary Suman to make her announcements. There are quite a lot actually for Suman to say. Okay, Suman, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gargi. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Let me first start by communicating about the birthdays and anniversaries. So this week we have the birthdays of a star couple of the club. So starting with Kalidas Oja, who celebrates his birthday on Saturday. And not to be left behind, Gargi Oja celebrates her birthday on Monday. Gargi and Kali, wish you both happy birthdays and a wonderful year ahead.
Thank you, Suman.
Yeah, we also have wedding anniversary tomorrow. This is Kayal and Venkatesh. They celebrate their wedding anniversary tomorrow. All the best, Kayal, to you. You're here. Can we get to see you, Kayal?
Thank you. Very happy to receive your wishes. Glad to connect with you. I am not in a position to switch on the video.
Oh, no problem. Yeah. Yeah. All the best to you and Venkatesh.
Thank you.
Yeah. We have a couple of programs this week. I will first, talk at the district level. As you all know, today is the World Alzheimer's Day. And we have our Alzheimer's ADRAC chair, Rotarian Savarwal, who at this time is giving a talk at the district level where the DG is participating. And this is on creating awareness on Alzheimer's. And we also know that our International Service Director, Shrikant, at the moment is participating in a Rotary ride. And this ride is basically to create hope and promote mental health. This is a ride for 12 days. We have 10 Rotarians from across the district who are participating, and they intend to cover about 4,000 kilometers across 10 cities. We wish all the 10 Rotarians and especially our Shrikant the very best. Closer
It's an
home.
IFMR ride.
Right.
Yes.
It's an IFMR ride.
Yeah.
Fellowship of Motorcycling Rotarians.
Right. That's what he was saying. You want to add anything on this, Devi?
And no, I think you covered it. But this is being undertaken with a cause. And that is for mental health. And they'll be visiting a number of Rotary clubs. And they'll also be raising funds for mental health. So, they hope to raise at least about 10 lakhs out of this, right?
Oh,
That's it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Devi.
Yeah.
And in our own club, on Saturday, we have 2 events. The first one is the, certificate distribution to the beautician trainees of the last 2 batches. There are close to about 26 ladies who will be awarded the certificates. This is being done by the vocational committee, by Director Madhu and Chair Ramakant, requesting all the Rotarians to visit RHL on Saturday at around, the event is at 11 a.m. The other event that is happening at the same time is the Interact Raila, where we have close to about 14 schools that will be participating. And this Interact Raila is being held in Shishu Mandir. And this is again being led by, Rotarian Sabarwal, who is the chair of Interact Raila, and Manju, the director. And this is going to be a 2-day event, both on Saturday and Sunday. The program starts on Saturday at 8:30 a.m. and it concludes on Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Please make it possible to attend on any of the days, and they are going to be having programs throughout the day. So anytime, whenever it is possible, if you can join, encourage the both the organizers and the participants, it will be wonderful. Coming to the committee meetings. So we have 2 committee meetings lined up in the next 2 days. The first is the youth committee meeting. This is going to be held tomorrow evening at 7:30 p.m. It is being hosted by Rotarian Ganesh, and the venue is Attide Boutique Hotel. This is on Bellary Road. The next on Saturday, we have the vocational committee meeting that will be held. This is being hosted by Vinay Pai, and this will be in Century Club. This is again being hosted on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. That's it with the announcements. Over to you, Gargi. Thank you.
Thank you, Suman. Before we proceed with our program of the day, I'd like to welcome all the guests who have come here, the Rotarians from other clubs, and of course, Shushila, your sister, from all the way from Singapore, I guess, right? Yeah, so everyone, a warm welcome. And probably all of you, I may not be knowing the name individually. So warm welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for attending this program today. Our next program is a Rotary Information Talk, which is the topic today is this month's theme actually, education and literacy. And our past president, Rotarian D. Venkatesh, is going to speak. Over to you, DV.
Okay. Thank you, Gargi. All of you are aware that September is the designated month for basic education and literacy as per the Rotary International calendar. Historically, the month of September has always been known as the Youth Activities Month. And when Rotary International decided to make education one of its 7 core areas of focus, they included basic education and literacy also, along with the youth activities in the month of September. And that is how basic education and literacy and youth activities is focused in the month of September. So why has Rotary International made basic education and literacy as one of its core areas? All of you will agree that the whole world has realized that the biggest impact anyone can make by helping someone in the field of education. And I think even in our Hindu Dharma, it is said that any contribution which is made, especially in the field of education, is the greatest kind of contribution that you can make. And nothing is better explained than Nelson Mandela's quote. Education is the only weapon by which you can change the world. Rotary International is guided by a survey undertaken by UNESCO, in which they came out with a finding that 775 million people all over the world above the age of 15 are illiterate. And this amounts to about 17% of the world population. And out of this 775 million, it was found that 64% are women. And it was for this reason that Rotary International is focusing heavily on education and especially on gender equality in education. That is, the focus is more on girl education. No, I'm sure all of us do experience moments of illiteracy, especially when we go to a place which is far off. And, when you don't know the language and you want to convey or you want to converse with people over there, and but we are not able to, really get through to them. This is how helpless you feel, and it is quite crippling, and it's very overwhelming also when you cannot converse and convey what you really want to. So, having said this, even in India, there are 73% of the population which is educated. And there is a gap of still 28%. That is nearly about 313 million people are still supposed to be illiterate. Out of which 59% are women. It is generally felt that when you educate a man, you only educate one person. But when you educate a woman, you educate a whole family. And that is why the focus is so heavily on girl education and women education. And it is not only education for the children, but this 775 million also includes a lot of elderly people, grown-ups in the age of 20, 30, 40, who are not educated. And you must have heard the very famous cliche that feed a man a fish and you feed him for a day, but you teach him how to fish, you would have fed him for life. So this is the focus on which Rotary International is working. And the key aspiration during this month is to address and reduce the gender disparity in education. And Rotary International feels that every child deserves an equal chance to learn and flourish. So, by investing in education, we invest in the future of our societies and the world at large. So the core focus, the purpose of Rotary is to empower individuals through education to shape their own destinies. So this is the reason why all the Rotary clubs all over the world have started focusing on education. So what are we waiting for? So let us also work collectively towards a brighter and a more literate tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Divi.
Yeah.
Now, before we request our today's speaker to start his speech, I'd request ex-Rotarian Raghuram to introduce another Professor Raghunath. So there were too many Raghuram and Raghunath. I didn't want to mix it up. So, but I understand that they know each other for very long. So I'm sure he's the most apt person to introduce Professor. Over to you.
Raghu, unmute yourself, please.
I thought I had unmuted.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And good evening, Rotarians and visitors. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Professor Raghunath, whom I have known for long and had the privilege to work on a number of teaching and consulting assignments along with Dash. Professor Raghunath has been associated with IIM Bangalore for more than 3 decades, where he has designed and delivered a wide range of academic programs, seminars and conferences for executives, corporates, and industries. The subjects range from core strategy, his specialization, to leadership skills, and to the now ubiquitous AI. He has also taught at several international institutions, including Stanford and INSEAD, a much sought after faculty member and author of many research papers that got published in top journals. Generally, you know that his programs generally get filled up faster than the first day SRK movie. He's on the board of many companies, and he's also the chairman of the South Asia Academy of International Business. Not just an academician, he also has many other interests, including astrology. And if his teaching is exceptional, his penchant for humor is unparalleled. Ever ready to see the lighter things in life, Professor Raghunath in some way defies physics. You can hear his uproarious laughter well before you can actually see him. Proving that in his case, the sound travels faster than light. Professor Raghunath is married to Usha, an accomplished corporate leader and an executive coach, and has 2 children, Suresh, a doctor, and Bhavna, a legal professional. Professor Raghunath, thank you for agreeing to be with us today to deliver a talk on the impact of technology on teaching and learning. So in this tech age, the floor is yours as a passing. The spirit of the topic, the theme of the topic, I would say the screen is yours. Professor Raghunath.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. So it's indeed an honor and a privilege to be with all of you. Mr. Raghuram, Dash, as you know him, and I see Mr. Shivkumar too here. Several of us have known each other for many years, and there is one common thread which holds us together, that we generally make light of life. So we are always trying to find the lighter side in anything that happens in life, and that always keeps us going together. So as far as I understand, the topic today is about online teaching. Am I right in understanding that? Is that the theme?
Yes, so both online teaching and learning with the technology is what you're hoping to hear from.
Yeah. So all of us, especially some of us who are part of the profession in education, we were forced into a platform which we never used before. IIM Bangalore, for example, did not stop any of its interactions for various courses throughout COVID. In fact, we even held the convocation virtually. The students were very dissatisfied. And then we held it again after a year for them to come and be physically with us. So we were kind of, all of us were, right? So we were quarantined and put in a place where we couldn't move. And then we were all asked to do it through the screen. And there has been a very surprising upside to online teaching and technology and learning, and all of us, and we specifically at IIM Bangalore prefer Zoom to Microsoft Teams for the simple reason that Zoom is amenable to a very large congregation, and it has other facilities which later Microsoft Teams developed in terms of breakout rooms and posting chats and responding and a whole host of this. So Zoom was far ahead So we licensed Zoom for the entire institution, and all of us were doing classes on Zoom. And as I said, the surprising upside was that, especially in executive education, where we hold these programs for executives who are actually working, and some of them very senior, much to our pleasant shock and surprise, we had enrollment starting from Montreal in Canada to Tokyo in Japan. So that was like a wow, he said, the reach that the technology provided in terms of our sessions was phenomenally surprising, which meant that if we started at 9 in the morning, the gentleman in Singapore or the lady in Singapore was having lunch on the screen. And we say lunch on the screen because we have a very strong rule that nobody can switch off their video. We don't take audio presence as presence at all of a human being. All of us know the reasons for it. So on the video, we had the most, I would say, the most unexpected scenes of a very small baby peering through the father's shoulder, or a mother feeding the baby some lunch in Singapore, and people in Japan obviously preparing for their evening tea and snacks, and guys in Montreal in the middle of the night, have all red eyes, and they are drinking coffee, and we would always ask, why are you torturing yourself enrolling in programs like this, which are completely against your the rhythm of your biorhythm of your body? So they would always say that this is one opportunity to engage, and we always wanted to, but geography and the distance amongst all of our locations did not allow them to. So there was a surprising upside, and all of us here are also now remote, and we are where we are, and we know we are connected, and we are present with each other virtual. But what happened was then in terms of engaging on the screen, one of the things which really came up is, to my mind, as Mr. Raghuram rightly said, I'm very passionate when I get into the front of the audience. And I have been told to temper it these days, saying that, these are not old time students, this is a younger generation. So don't expect them to engage so much. So I have kind of tempered down. But one of the things that I faced was the inability to hold attention. This was pretty much like, all of us, if you remember our times when we had very young children, the child was always distracted when you were trying to feed something, right? So, a classroom and a topic and a theme and an area of inquiry is almost like, engaging and making sure there is interaction and everybody's with you and you are with them. So the first casualty in online is it's very hard to hold attention, extremely hard. So if one were to do a one-way conversation like what I'm doing right now, and if you exceeded 10 minutes, you had real trouble. I mean, people just are not there. I mean, they may be showing themselves up, but they were not there. So one of the most important things which came up, and of course, we have now done this for close to 2.5 years now, is to focus on engaging rather than just worrying about content and analysis and all that. How does one engage? And one of the things through trial and error came up as a sure shot way of engaging is keep on asking questions. Don't make statements, just ask questions. So when you ask questions, then obviously the human brain starts thinking, right? And then you keep holding them. The second thing which I realized going along is that fatigue sets in if you have, a 90-minute session or a 75-minute session. It's both ways. Those guys are not with you, and you feel if those fellows are not with you, why the heck am I in front of them? So, it is a kind of an internal battle which goes on. So which led to the second thing, to introduce novelty and being very unpredictable in terms of, what you're going to do next. So one of the practices we had earlier of sharing content before the class, and we decided to withhold it. In the sense, no content before the class. The guys will read it and then they will show that they are there. But if you ask a question or you were to engage in a deeper way, nobody's around to even pin drop silence, because there is nobody actually mentally engaging. So using surprising questions, creating these discussion groups every 15 minutes, throwing a problem at them, using very short, 30-second, 15-second videos. All of this became instruments of engaging. So as professors, when we like to be one way in terms of what we are communicating, and that's not called communication, because you are just articulating, you're not communicating, right? And most of us start articulating without worrying about whether we are communicating. In other words, not even knowing whether this is being accepted, or people are in with you, or do they have questions, or they have other ideas. So making all sessions interactive became a very huge learning for us, that we all moved into the arena of saying that how do we create interactive elements and just disengage from this business of giving a lecture. So being able to generate these discussion groups and then bringing them back to report brought in deeper engagement, because they had their own insights, and after they had some insights, they had also obviously some questions, and the interpretations from different people were very different based on the assumptions that they all made. So we realized the hard way that unlike straight face-to-face sessions, the technology is great in terms of reach. The technology is poor in terms of creating communication. It creates articulation. It helps articulation, but communication in terms of, creating that third dimension of what are people aspiring to know and how are they understanding, and then what are you saying about it and how are you filling the gaps, and all of that became a new learning for all of us. The other distracting but an interesting feature in technology is this whole function of a chat. So people start writing all kinds of things on chat, and by the time you have spoken for 15 minutes, there are some about 15, 20 remarks or questions on the chat. Now, if you are speaking, you cannot simultaneously keep looking at the chat and start responding. And that's not possible. Either you can speak with all your head and your attention, or you can start reading there and get distracted and don't have any cogency or coherence in terms of what you say. However, the chat window actually became a tool for students or participants who were shy of verbalizing to actually put their thoughts and comments on the side, and that gave them I would say an excellent opportunity to surface in a classroom interaction. So warm calls and cold calls is what we all used to actually utilize in our face-to-face class. What we mean by warm is we inform beforehand that we are likely to ask XYZ questions of certain groups of students, and we keep them informed. And cold calls are nobody knows who's going to be asked a question or who's going to be asked to volunteer to explain or give somebody else a comment on what we are going to discuss. So warm calls and cold calls, especially cold calls, in my view, were a very effective way of keeping people engaged. This one question of XYZ, what do you think? Really brought people back in their thinking, in their feeling, in their understanding, and all of that back into, what you were actually doing. And this kind of creating ways of engaging very shy and reticent students or participants became a very fine art going forward in these classrooms. One of the things that we maintain, which we maintain, and very hard to kind of enforce it if you are doing several sessions, is to ensure that people have their video cameras on. And there is a tendency to always switch off the camera. So, somebody like me becomes very persistent and says that if you don't turn the camera on, then we are not proceeding or whatever. And then, people start putting it on. But the point here is that became a little bit of, I would say, issue where both the person who was leading a discussion and the one who was apparently wanting to be seen as participating by keeping the audio on, but not necessarily participating, became a bit of a challenge, going forward. So, camera, especially allowing people to have a dual check-in. They can actually enter using the camera on the phone and switch off the audio there, and then they can use the laptop. And having a two-way thing became something that we would always say that is required, because there has to be skin in the game when you are actually engaging in an exploration of a certain framework, idea, concept, and we wanted people to be in it. Sending emails to students and asking them specifically about, what did they think about a certain discussion, or, do they have any ideas and do they want to take it forward, actually enabled bringing very passive and non-participating people back into the classroom. So, sending emails, using polls. So there is a way, all of you know, that there are various tools available for, using polling, asking for very brief written responses to certain questions before the class. All of that brought these people into the process of engaging in the classroom. One other thing which we found very useful, especially in the Q&A session, which we always cherished, because that was a way to gauge how much was being absorbed and how much was being treated as being interesting, was to leverage the chat function, in the sense that one could always bring in something which is not a part of the mainstream discussion, and saying that, here it is, there is a different point of view, and should we all, look at it. So, to kind of summarize this whole thing, there is one big advantage of virtual settings. That is, it actually lowers the bar for participation, that anybody can join from anywhere. It also lowers the bar for people who are genuinely interested. So when you have an audience which is involuntary in nature, in the sense that we guys are marking attendance and we are saying you don't have requisite attendance, you don't get a grade. Now that's the troublesome audience, right? So we don't even know that these guys want to be around, but they're being forced, so they are around. Now all that I said now was about the involuntary audience. But there's also the voluntary audience, such as yourselves, Nobody was forcing you to be here this evening, right? And we also have guests here. Now that's an audience which is really interested. And getting the thoughts and insights from people when they are so very interested makes the interaction much more richer, much more interesting. And I think that is what the virtual platform does in terms of an engagement. So I think I will stop at this point and I will take some questions. I think that would be more interesting for all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, Professor Narayan here. I had a question. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, very good insights on virtual, teaching. Now, what I have seen is a lot of institutions, including IIM, have adopted the hybrid approach, which is, part can be in campus, attending the class, and at the same time the virtual. So how does that get managed, and doesn't that throw some new challenges, because there are people who are in the classroom, some online. How does that work effectively?
So if you want me to say it without editing anything, which I would say, and with the hope that you don't quote me anywhere, because these are very sensitive issues. We have, after 2 years, realized that we have to become very directive and send a message that this is a no-nonsense institution. And I say I don't want to be quoted on that because obviously it has implications for those who are currently in the hybrid mode with us. We have decided to crack the whip, so to say. What we mean by that is, it has become a tendency to join courses because you want a certification. Not because you are interested in learning, knowing, understanding, none of those things. I'm not saying everybody. It's about 80%. Only 20%. I mean, there's a general rule. I'm not saying that's what it is. All these guys who come on the screen, I mean, they believe that, I'm sorry to say this because, you see that I am a very passionate guy. So, I don't pardon people who don't engage. In the sense, I say either you don't engage and you leave the place. Show that you're absent, okay? Don't, appear as if you are there. And then you are actually not there and you don't know a damn thing. And at the end of it, you put the onus on us saying that, we didn't understand anything. I did badly because, I couldn't understand it. Come on, yaar. You have to put your shoulder on the wheel, right? So you are absolutely right. Hybrid is one of the most challenging offering that we are into. Guys who are face to face, they have no choice but to deal with us, right? They are there or they are not there. But guys who are on the screen, and I'm very sorry to tell you that some of them are very senior people, very senior. This is like our roads and the behavior of driving on the roads. The drivers who cut you and you do all nonsense are actually very well educated guys. They are not just auto rickshaw wallahs. Very sorry to tell you that, this nonsense of trying to prove that you are asking for me to be around and I will switch the video off. And if you ask a question, that guy is not even there. Okay. And then they want attendance. Why? Because without attendance, we will not allow them to qualify or sit for an exam. Horrible. Yeah. It's such a demeaning thing. And as I said, I don't want to be quoted on this because this is a very delicate matter. But some of us are cracking the whip in the sense that every month we have a list and we call these guys separately and we tell them, what is, and they'll bullshit. Oh, I don't have bandwidth. I said, why? You have a cell phone and you have a laptop. What is this business of a bandwidth? You think that your cell phone is not capable of giving you that bandwidth? And where do you generally sit? So all that nonsense. And I'm so sorry that, sorry, I'm sounding negative, but, we feel very agitated when we find that well-educated people holding such high responsibilities, they participate in our part-time programs and they behave like this, and on top of that, start making demands after doing whatever they do. So yes, my answer is hybrid, very tough. Very tough, especially for the teacher. Because one side, the guy has to keep looking at the people in front. Then there are fellows there, who are also putting stuff up on the chat or it is challenging. It is challenging for somebody who is running a session. Absolutely. Mr. Narayan,
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
You are on the spot. You're right. Difficult thing.
Okay. May I, Professor?
Yes.
Yeah. You see, few years back, actually, this online culture really came into existence when the COVID had hit us very badly.
Yes.
We had no option. And so this is actually came as a boon that, yes, at least we are doing something. In fact, throughout the year, I remember I was the club secretary and all our meetings were on Zoom meeting. But we could survive the year because we were doing Zoom meetings. So we were in touch with each other. But what I have observed, and I keep hearing from various parents, that this 2 years of online teaching has hit the children especially. I'm not talking about the adults. Maybe, okay, it's a different reaction there. But children who are sort of, say, 6, 7, 8 years old, 10 years old, and just getting to learn the computer, and they are sort of dumped into that. So, and what happened in the process after 3 years, when we are back to school now, back to college now, this has impacted their learning ability very badly. So what is your opinion about it, and what is your observation on this also?
Yeah, so one of the things that I noticed, and I noticed it in some of my colleagues, what started happening, which was not at all good. I'm talking from the teaching community side. A child in a school is by himself or herself. Many parents, instead of allowing the child to be isolated in a room where the class, the laptop was or the desktop was, and leaving them alone did not happen. As a result, I'm sorry to say, see, I keep saying this because as an educator, I find all of this very alarming. You please, all of us who are here, if we put our hand on our heart and ask ourselves, why did we learn so much in our life? That is because the technology of learning was self-reliance. Gandhiji's technique of Swavalamban or Atmanirbhar Bharat. You see, all of us were told that you have to learn to jostle, take challenges, manage yourself. You are capable of doing it because you were left alone. Unfortunately, I found some of my colleagues, and I am a guy who will say it. They will sit behind the child and keep on prompting. And I am saying, Yaar, what are you doing? No, I want the child to perform better. The teacher is talking nonsense. I said, you are actually, you are ingressing into a line of communication where you are not supposed to be there. Why are you there, first of all? What is this great thing about my child has to do better and make the child competitive and all this rubbish? Why are you doing this? If we cannot be authentic to ourselves, and this is just a comment. This is just a comment that if you don't allow the child to fail, or not fail in the sense fail, but not succeed in a certain thing, then struggle and find the answers. Of course, being helped, but all the time making the child walk mentally, intellectually on his or her own potential is in my view, students, poor children with their parents, all the time feeling so very possessive about this whole thing, messed up the whole, in my view, none of us have any business, including me. I also have had children. You should never enter that area. And I think that completely destroyed a student's ability to have confidence in learning. Learning is a journey, right? We always move from a lesser known position to a higher known position, all of us. And if one cannot have the joy of saying that it is my effort, my thinking, my understanding, my ability to concentrate, and if my father or mother is going to be sitting behind and answering on my behalf and writing notes on the table and showing that you say this or you do this, all nonsense. Complete rubbish, destroying child's confidence. Anyway, sorry. So what I am trying to say is, when children then come back, they suddenly realize they are not in a protected environment. And the whole idea is that if you expose the child to be self-reliant in every way, the child becomes a better human being in every way, So unfortunately, I had I think the accidental chances of seeing what parents were doing when children were on the screen. Not on. Absolutely not. What happens if a child doesn't do well? Kya hone wala hai? What is so great about this? What happens if the child doesn't understand? So what, yaar? Struggle, na? If you say it's not possible, then finally you say, okay, I'll help. But we are all in the business of developing self-confidence in anybody and everybody who engages. I mean, that's my view. That the only education that you give anybody is to believe in themselves, that they are capable of getting their own answers. And I think that is education that was destroyed in a large extent, to such an extent that one of the parents came and said, I went and fixed the teacher in the school. I said, what did you do? You see, I heard everything teacher said, and I went and complained to the principal and told this teacher is not worthy of. Don't do these things. I mean, come on. Everybody has limitations. Everybody, they are all in a path. And I think that in my view, the child did not have that feeling that the locus of control was within herself or himself. A school always makes it, once you get into the gate, you are on your own. Correct? And you have, that's the learning, right? That's the learning. Come on, the world is that way. You have got to learn this. So anyway, so what I feel is, it was but I'm ever grateful that all of us are alive. Children are all alive. No, I'm serious. Children are all alive. All their faculties are functioning. There have been many cases where they have been destroyed by the COVID aftermath, right? So I think we are all very grateful that everything is fine, and we are. But ma'am, I think it will all come back. Human beings, they need time. Yeah. You just give them another year or so, you see how everything will be normalized.
Yes.
That is because they are back to facing challenges.
I think really the grown-ups are facing the situation in a little better way than the kids. The kids probably, there's a very formative year.
Take time. No, but that is what I'm saying. That ones who face extreme adversity in formative years, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi, I'm of the view that the strength in one's psychology, thinking, understanding, self-confidence all comes not because the parents have done much more than parenting. No. It is the child who knows how to find the way. And that is the journey, right? So as parents, we are making sure that they don't hurt themselves in any way. But beyond that, no. Girna padega na, it's like learning cycling. Girna to padega na, otherwise you don't know how to balance. So that is what I feel. Learn, it will all come back, ma'am. Don't worry. Another one more year and children will be normalized completely. It is just that they are facing it again. So don't worry about it.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Anyone else would like to ask any question to Professor?
Yeah. I have a question. Sergey, good to see you.
Namaste, sir.
So, permit me to ask you a bit of a provocative question.
Yes, yes.
Do you think technology can replace a good teacher?
Yeah, it can, no? So, for example, now the kind of bots that are being generated, and if you are looking at what generative AI is doing, correct, with ChatGPT and all, it's all, if you have ever used ChatGPT, you will laugh at some of the things that comes out if you know the subject very well. For you, let us say in M&A, you put questions, you see what it shows, you will laugh. The reason is it only aggregates. It can only aggregate in a very meaningful way. It doesn't really have the kind of insight and a contextual understanding of what you are asking. So, nobody can replace a human being. I don't believe so. It may give you some very salt and pepper, onion, potato answers. You know what I mean? Something which is very general in nature. I think that very base level learning and all will be very good. But more complexity you introduce, I don't know whether you can totally rely on that and feel that, you know, this is going to be. No. The human being with an experience, with an exposure, understanding the limitations of context. So one of the things that I've learned in my life doing all this work is that it is not the content which is important. It is always the context. Somebody like yourself, you've worked internationally, right? So you know that, right? In your own consulting, you know, when you change a country and you have clients versus you do it in India and all that, you know, suddenly you realize that what worked in India does not work elsewhere. So contextual intelligence is definitely a superior order contribution by human beings. While everything which is base level logic and not so complex, you know, variables coming in and limitations coming in. In those levels, yes, of course, totally replace, totally. Because you ask a question, it will give you an answer. No? You say, I don't understand this, then it will give you more. Then you are, so it's like general stuff. But then you ask a very specific thing saying that, you know, given this limitation, given this thing, given that. So you put so many variables which are generally not seen. I would think that you cannot just rely on such answers.
Thank you. Yeah, I think Dash wants to ask a question. Yes, Dash, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Professor, thank you so much. As always, a very, very illuminating piece. So I had one comment and one observation. So the comment is, as you rightly put it, it doesn't matter where people are, the ability to join from wherever. So we have a nice term for it. Geography is history, right? And today's talk, for instance, there are so many people from other parts of Bangalore who are able to join without the 1.5 hour journey to Rotary Bangalore Cantonment one way. Right? So I think that way technology helps socialize this and have more reach to more people. Now, one thing I found again in my IIM classes is, for instance, when people are logging in, right, the online piece that we talked about, and it's very important for us to engage them and make sure that they're participating. One small tool I used was I put up an Excel sheet. Let's say there are 80 people in my class. So I put an Excel sheet of number 1, and the Excel picks up a number at random. Corresponding to that number, there is some Joe Blob whose name will appear, right? And that person is showing up as attending. I would call that person up and say, okay, so what do you think? It could be something as simple as who is your favorite Fortune 500 CEO. If the person doesn't answer, which obviously means they've logged in and possibly gone for a walk, which is always good for their health, but they're not engaging with you. So I made it very clear in day one that if this happens, if I call somebody and they're not able to answer, they get -1 for class participation, right? And that had an effect that people now started being a little bit more honest, meaning either they exited or when they were there, they knew the probability of their being called up was 1 on 80. So sometimes you can use the technology itself boomerang it on them and make sure that stay a little bit more honest. So just an observation.
Exactly. Well said. You always come up with innovative ideas.
Yes.
May I ask a question?
Haji.
I think there is Shri Kumar Narayan who would like to ask the question also. Will you please unmute?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Good evening, Professor. Hope you are doing well. This is Sri Kumar. Hi. Question is, the word exponential is being added across. Exponential organization, exponential economy, exponential. So, coming to the context of learning, how easy or hard is going to be comprehending the abstract, that X factor which is producing the capital which is exponential. What happens to learning in that context? Is going to be relevant, or dehumanized and we just watch technology taking over?
So one of the things, I don't know, you probably are aware that Google has come up with this whole idea that you actually don't need to only look at competencies based on undergraduation or graduation. You know that, right?
Yep.
So see, the world is becoming pretty much fragmented in terms of its orientation. So there are these guys who are on this exponential mode, and there are other guys who are saying that that's not the whole story. The fact is that all of that is true. The reason being that the competencies and the requirements for outcomes are at different levels of decision making, thinking, complexity, and all those dimensions. So in my view, some of these things of saying that we don't really require formal certifications of undergraduation, graduation are very valid when you have a very focused expectation of a certain skill, a certain program, a certain architect, if you are an architect in technology in a certain way. And all of those requirements which fulfill to today's software and hardware technology need not actually go by the undergrad, grad, and the usual way of looking at it. So this business of exponential is very valid for very structured data, very structured information, very structured knowledge. And I would totally agree with them that you don't have to spend your time, going through all these rotation of various, the 360-degree view of life in a certain area, in a certain domain, right? So one doesn't have to do that. But not everything in life is based on a single competency, on a single capability, or a single depth in understanding. So the moment you kind of bump up a responsibility, accountability, authority, then the traditional forms of education continue to have a role.
Right.
So if today, if you were to say, which is a reality, I don't know how many of you are chief executive officers. Nobody was a chief executive officer before he became one, right? It's like you have been a CFO or a CHRO or a CFO or whatever,
right,
or a general manager. Then suddenly they say the whole company, institution, firm is on your head, that the buck stops with you. Now, look at that. What is the situation of that person, and what are the complexities, and what are the controllable and uncontrollable variables that he or she will face? And therefore, the kind of education a person requires at that level is not going to be ChatGPT, or not going to be just technology led, right? So, in my view, human beings will engage in education at upper echelons of complex understanding. And everything which was vanilla and which is structured based on decision rules, if everything has a clear correlation, all of that can be obtained by anybody and everybody, and really doesn't matter you have education. But the ability to do that, for example, of what I'm trying to tell you is that IIMs and all the top business schools will continue to hold a lot of relevance, because the challenges which they actually address with very young people in a context of a functional area of management, be it marketing, production, operations, HR, whatever, finance, whatever. It's not something which can just be codified and people can be given and sent out, and half of them will get it, half of them won't get it, and then everybody's left to their means. So the human being very intelligent at the same time being indisciplined requires another human force to push them. It is like the coach, right? The coach makes a great player, correct? That is because he goes and really enforces. And so I think that area will continue. I don't see any problem with it.
Thanks. Thanks.
Okay. Before I go to the next question, I'll just request for about 10 minutes extension, please. I hope I have the approval.
Excuse me?
Yes. I think there is nothing in the chat box, but someone was asking a question in between.
I think Revati wanted to ask something.
Yeah. Yeah, please go ahead.
My question is, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, of course.
My question is, with artificial intelligence, what are the kinds of difficulties you're facing as a teacher? Because the children are so intelligent to get their work done via using technology to submit their assignments, etc. So how are you dealing with this?
It's very easy, ma'am. The way to handle this, the way I handle it, I don't know what others. I ask people to then and there respond to questions, to problem statements, and give them some time. And I say, come on, send it on my email. Now, that's a tough one, right? They can't go back and prepare, as you rightly said, employ other devices to do all kinds of things. So I have become increasingly interactive in my assessments. Of course, we have that final one of having an exam or having a project. All that is there, but I don't give so much credence to that. I kind of go with saying, here you are, and here is what it is. Now let's see what you do. So, it pushes them. But not everybody has moved into that mode. So, and of course, this is a lose-lose game. Some of us believe that we should make it tougher for the students. And I believe that doesn't go anywhere in life. And what is the point in making it so tough, which is way beyond, reasonable expectation, that most of the class mass just can't measure up? I mean, why do we do such things? I mean, this is not a competition as to, if you are clever, I am cleverer than you. I mean, come on. That's not on. That isn't not the business in which we are on. So, since I personally believe that the whole reason for the audience and myself to be around is that we are exploring an area. And that exploration has to happen in one's head and nowhere else. So, for example, madam, what I do, when I see laptops on, I just tell them there is a rule in this class. And I tell them the rule is that laptops have no role when you are seated in this classroom. So I insist. And if I still see 3-4 fellows, I will go straight up to where they are in the gallery and say, but they don't want me to see what they're seeing, right? So they will shut it. They know the guy is coming, so they will shut it. Which is, in my view, such a terrible non-adult interaction. Is this the way we should all be? I don't like it, but I do it. Because what to do, there are guys who stoop to this. So, so you're right. You're right. It is a challenge. So some of us who don't believe in making it tougher and tougher, do the other thing, like make it real-time interaction. You're right, on the dot. Incidentally, all of you should know that Madam Revati is a gold medalist. Don't you want to clap for her?
Yeah, we all know that. Professor, there is one representative from the district of Rotary 3191, Mr. Reddy.
Yeah.
And
Good
Rotarian
evening.
Reddy,
Good
I'd
evening, Professor.
really ask you to go ahead and ask your question.
Good evening, Professor. So
Good
we
evening.
had excellent presentation on this technology, use of technology in education. And this is good, I think, where the learners are self-motivated and self-directed. This is really good. But in real classrooms, face-to-face classrooms, how to make use of this technology for making our classes more effective? So can you, with your experience, can you clarify how
Yes,
to
sir.
use it?
Yes, sir. So there is something called Mentimeter, MENTI meter. That Mentimeter allows you to actually prepare questions in advance, and if you feed those questions in at appropriate points in your class, you can pose a question and it will calibrate and tell you the kind of answers that people have given and what percentage of people have thought in a certain way and what percentage of people have thought in a different way. And it enriches the class because, there is divergence in terms of understanding, and you bring that up. So Mentimeter is a very good device. I'm very sure Mr. Raghuram and a few others must be using it. It's a useful device. You can pre-prepare questions, then you can use those questions in appropriate points throughout your session and ask for, they have to respond. They agree, disagree, they say true, false, they say yes, no, they can do all that, and then it will compute and it will show you on the screen, what the results are, and then you can have a discussion.
I hope you have your reply, Rotarian Reddy.
Yes, madam. I think it is good. I think
is there anyone else?
Normally in teacher education, we suggest and advise many aids, audiovisual aids, but many teachers are not using in the real situation. But
Sir, we have to see what we have to do is we must introduce when we induct teachers into in any institution. The teacher has to himself or herself go through how to use PowerPoint, what are the ways in which you can use various commands to make your life easier, what are some of the other tools which are so none of us take the responsibility after inducting a person into the teachers available in an institution. We don't take the responsibility of converting them into good teachers. We only evaluate them saying, oh, you are good, you are bad, you are not. That doesn't take anybody anywhere. So it has to be done. The moment a person joins, at least a month must be allocated to familiarize the teacher with the settings, the situation, the classrooms, the classes, the kind of devices available, the PowerPoint that they can make, they should know how to make it, ask them to go through classes and get help from the IT department, get help from others. And we have to run what I would call as a teacher induction program. It has to be there in all institutions. 1 month, 1 full month, not morning to night. What I'm saying is 1 full month, maybe an hour or 2 every day, because you can't put them like that. But an hour or 2 every day, they must go through this. They must sit through other classes. They must understand. They must familiarize. And when a teacher is familiarized, performs better. Instead of saying that at the end of the year, I want to see how you're doing. I mean, how does that help? We want the teacher to actually teach, right? So
motivation is also needed. Motivation of teacher.
Absolutely. Yes, of course. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I guess there is no further question. So I'd request Shiva Kumar to give the formal vote of thanks to the professor.
Yeah, thank you very much. When Dash called me in the morning to say that I have to propose a vote of thanks, I was I felt profoundly sort of privileged, because I've been had the good fortune of knowing Professor Raghunath for many years, and has always been a great admirer of his deep knowledge, wit and wisdom, as what Raghu mentioned. Professor, you started by saying that how to keep audience engaged, keep it short and simple. So I'm going to take cue on that and keep this vote of thanks pretty short. Thank you very much, Professor, for really elucidating how the technology is really empowering both the teachers and learners in a way, fostering a very conducive environment where interactive, and I heard you, collaborative and innovative learning experiences are fostered. You rightly mentioned that technology cannot replace a good teacher. In the hands of a good teacher, it can be really transformational technology. So I really I agree with that. And technology today is a pen and paper of our time. And you listening to you was quite insightful. Thank you, Rotarians and other guests who have been there. Thank you for your engagement and interaction. And I'm a believer that the future of learning is as promising as the insights we have gained today. With that, I hand it over back to President Gagi. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Shiva, for that vote of thanks. And I just would like to add a few things further. It was really great having so many guests joining this meeting today. I would especially like to thank the Vijay Kumar and also MCR Reddy from the district. And also I'd like to thank my co-presidents. Yes, Gitanjali, it's nice to have you on board. And also HMT Gauda. And so many guests from the district and otherwise. It was really a very fulfilling experience to host a meeting like this, where you have such a spontaneous participation. Thank you all. Thank you very much. And of course, Professor, thanks a lot to you.
Thank you.
Now I
Bye-bye.
adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.